Hello and welcome to This Is Going to Sound Weird. I'm your host, Dana Louise. Thank you for joining me. This video is going to be about aliens. Because UFOs, Congress is talking about UFOs. They're trying to disclose it. There's not going to be a disclosure. UFOs. I don't even know. Where are they? What is the end game with that? I don't think there's going to be really any information. They can't do that. Because we'd have that War of the Worlds things. Most of you are probably too young to know about this, but there was a radio show. Oh gosh, back when my dad was a child, back in the 20s or 30s, and they had a thing, and it was the radio rendition or episode of War of the Worlds, and they were talking, but some people tuned in a little bit late, and then they got all excited because they were talking about aliens landed, and people went crazy and whatever, and that's the maturity level we are still kind of at. The media has been rolling out more disclosures. The CIA, who controls the media, are rolling out more disclosures about who we are and what's going on. They have to contractually. I don't know. Number one, I don't know what level you're at in your personal life. I don't know how open you are. Maybe you're a muggle. Level 1. Well, that would kind of be like 0. Literally Doritos and football. You go to work. That's great, and I appreciate that. And that's wonderful. And I wish I could be there. I wish, because that would be so easy. And there's level 1, kind of knowing. Maybe you've heard some things, maybe you've been visited by a ghost or something like that, level 1 type things. And then, maybe you've started to feel that there's a little bit more to this realm. You're level 3, but anyway, there's a bunch of different levels. I can break that down in some other video. It's not today. So, yeah, aliens. Yep. They, outside of a spaceship. There are two different subjects. UFOs, and then there's aliens. Oh, gosh. What can I say? So many religions have had artwork or texts about aliens being on the planet, walking among us, some weird shit going on. And I don't know, I don't understand. There's this gaslighting. So if you talk to a Christian about the Bible, or you don't even talk to them. Maybe they read the Bible. Most of them haven't. I did. I read it twice. But anyway, figure if it's your faith, you should know something about it. But anyway, so you talk to a lot of Christians, and they're like, oh no, I don't believe in aliens. But I'm sorry. I'm like, did you read Genesis? Go read it again. There's something called the Anunnaki, and they're a species that is here, and they've always been here. And there's a bunch of other ones, and I don't know if I'm going to get into that because a lot of them are not good, and I don't think you're ready for that. So let's just keep it level 1. In the Bible, there was the Anunnaki. There's no real talk about them leaving or anything. They're just kind of mentioned a bunch of times. So what do you think happening? Did they die off? You could say Neanderthals. We all have a little Neanderthal in us. The Homo sapiens, anyway, I'm not going to get into all that. But anyway, yes, so we had the aliens. You look at Hinduism, you look at the artwork and stuff like that, Krishna, blah, 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 blah. Everybody else kind of says, hey, yeah, there's other species. And they've been here the whole time. And there's clues. And I'm not going to get into it right now because you might just reject it because this is level 1. Okay, this is level 1. But what happened for me? Yes, I was in the crib. Aliens were here. They came and they visited me. Why me and not you? Well, number one, this was back long ago in the 60s, and I think there was a lot of programs going on back then. a lot of alien technology being swapped for human contact. It's still going on, but it's a little different. Things have changed. Uh, yeah, so they started visiting me in the crib, and I can't tell you how many times. But I know after they left, I would be different. I would be able to affect like technology, like electric devices. Digital clocks were new. I know, that's how old I am, like dirt. I pass a digital clock and I'd make it go haywire. My dad, that was upsetting because he'd have to, like reset it because it would just be going 88888, whatever. And sometimes they visited me so many times I don't even remember how many times they visited me. But a lot of times, I might not remember them, but the next day, the residual effects, and it just made me feel a little bit magical that I could do that I could walk by something and affect it. We didn't have computers back then. We didn't have cell phones or any of these kinds of things. But there were certainly devices that when I'd pass them, they would flip out. And like I said, later on there were 2 other species. And here's a shameless plug. I wrote a little book. Shameless plug. It's on Amazon. Here's my shameless plug. And I get into all this a lot more. And this is me. I'm in Norway, the Lofoten Islands. This is going to sound weird. And, where was I heading with that? Yeah, so I met these 2 other species, and when I was writing the book, a lot of things were disclosed to me. A lot of things like memories came out, which, thankfully I was able to put in the book. And one of them was, this whole Jack Skeleton guy. I mean, like, he's cute, right? And you want to love him. And then there were like these like monsters, and I think it's Mrs. Peregrine's school for whatever children or something like that. And they had monsters that were like skinny like that. But when I was little, kind of like, 2nd, 3rd grade, I would draw these pictures like a bobblehead, just kind of like a stick figure, but like circular long arms and legs. And I would laugh at it. Woo! Oh my God. Are the squirrels coming back at me? That's hilarious. Yeah. They could. You never know what's going to drop out of the sky, chicken looking. at least in my world. Yeah, so, and I did a little prayer to God. I said, God, if you want something in the book, you got to hurry up because I'm so done. It took me 4 years. I'm so done. I want to know. If there's anything that you want in the book, I'll do it. I'll write it, blah, blah, blah. And then, so I was sitting there watching Close Encounters for the 20 millionth time. Everybody loves it. It's great. But at the end of the movie, the big mothership comes and lands, and the bay door opens up, and out come, this really tall, skinny, lengthy, gangly alien. And in that moment, because like during writing the book, in this moment, I was like, oh shit. I mean, he's a little tall. He's taller than what I met. But he's the same damn thing, that skinny alien. And the one I met was wearing a black Speedo. I don't know why. But the one I met was also coming, like, approaching over me while I was sleeping. And not in a good way. And, so I'm watching the movie, and here's this guy. He's like tall and all this stuff. And then after that, out come all these little baby aliens. They look like aliens, but they look kind of half human. You know what I'm talking about? And in the movie, first came out all the military personnel or just, civilians that had been swept up by the spaceship over decades, and these people hadn't aged and blah, blah, blah. And so the government on top of the Devil's Tower was ready for them, and oh, okay, like Colonel Peter Jacobson, military, blah blah blah, 1942, blah blah blah. As these people are coming off, I think that's kind of how it went, and So we see these people and that they're being welcomed, but we don't see what happens with these little gankly babies. We don't see them go back onto the spaceship. You really don't know what happened to these guys. And then the tall guy's like, meh, 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 meh. So when he showed up, he came with a troop of other beings, and they, I call them Sigmund the Sea Monsters, because they look like little fire plugs, like little tree stumps, and they were not cute. They were really scraggly and edgy, and I only kind of one time saw a picture, a drawing from somebody, and that's a whole nother story about what they look like. And when they came in, they could sense that I was afraid, so they shape shifted to look softer. And they're like, oh, because they're like, oh, are we scaring you? And I'm like, and then they're like, oh, is this better? And I'm like, whatever. And then they're like, I'm like, why are you here? Now this is telepathic. And they're like, why are you here? Or like, yeah, I'm like, why are you here? And they're like, we're here to save the planet. And I was like, I said a lot of swears like, And that's when I realized that the tall, skinny guy in his black Speedo was like, had a big like surgical lamp, and and then I was knocked out. I get into it more in descriptive detail in the book, because otherwise, it would take up too much time. And I don't know how many other people have ever seen these little Sigmund the Sea Monster light type aliens. I'm going to have to like maybe come up with a drawing or do a drawing myself and post about it, show it. But something's going on. And so, what do I come away with during that type of experiment or experience? It was an experiment. Because literally, I know they took my eggs and they took my husband's sperm. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be gross, but they did in that night. And it wasn't until I was writing the book that I realized, this is a little TMI, that, yes, I had my husband's sperm. And so that's all they needed. Like how many sperm are deposited and, how many eggs do I have? Maybe they took all my eggs after that. What did they do with it? Did they make little alien babies, like 100% true alien babies? Did they make true humanoids? Did they make true children of mine? And what are they doing with that? Are they harvesting them? Are they replicating them? Are they cloning them? What are they doing with that? All I can think is like, oh, hopefully, they're maybe growing them up to be like Duncan in Dune. And they're going to be soldiers, and they're going to be great warriors, because they said they were here to help save the planet. So I'm like, okay. But, number one, it's kind of a rapey encounter. If you want my DNA, you could ask me. But hey, do we ask a cow in the field or any other lab rat? We're like, we can't talk rat. But, we did have communication. Just ask me before you steal all my DNA. So that's me talking about aliens. And I got a lot more stories. About that. And all my stories are not about aliens and UFOs and stuff like that. I keep saying that. A lot of them, there are many stories about angels and ghosts. So a little takeaway for you would be, there are other life forms out there. But there are many life forms on a lot of different levels. So I kind of think like we are worms on this planet, and different life forms could be living right on top of us. Because like a worm doesn't know that there's a house on top of it. A worm doesn't know anything about jets or going to work or Doritos or football. And could humans be just as benighted? Maybe I'm throwing it out there. But I'm going to stop talking. I appreciate your time. I'm just going to try to break these things down to little bite-sized pieces at my little buffet. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for joining me. And until next time.